So if we could begin by introducing ourselves.
My name is Jose Torres, business owner from Lowe's Square, jewelry store, Torres Omar Jewelry. We've been in business for 32 years in Lowe's Square, and I thank the mayor for helping having us here. And parents from Mexico, from Guanajuato, migrated here in the 70s, and but just opened up the business in the 80s, and three kids. And we just love it. We were born and raised here in Chicago. We love Chicago.
My daughter Crystal.
Good afternoon, y'all. My name is Juanita Flores. I'm a realtor with Remax, and I'm also a graduate from DePaul. Got my bachelor's from DePaul.
For my daughter.
I have also 3 graduates, one from Northwestern, DePaul, and one from Loyola. So the fundamental, I was born and raised in this country, for my children, and I had two of my children. The oldest is an engineer, worked for Cook County with the Department of Economic Development, so Florida. So she's there, and my son, which you know that my business partner was Sujin Flying Foods, she's my partner with them. And my youngest, which is the youngest of the archdiocese, which is a principal at St. Gall. So I'm very proud of my children, and my passion is helping people with their real estate needs. And I'll talk about that.
I'm Carlos Montoya. I'm Chairman, CEO, Founder of Aztec American Bank. We have a branch in Berwyn, a branch here at 43rd and Ashland. We've been in the Berwyn, or the Backyards neighborhood since our inception. We took over the branch from Marquette. We chair the Backyards SSA 10 and are very involved with some of the issues there. And the Backyards
Thank you for giving the invitation. My name is Oscar Veloso. I am the owner of Veloso Construction Company. I do construction since 1994 in Chicago. My business is located in Rio Village, and I got a beautiful family, 4 kids, 1 boy, 3 girls. I got twins in my family, so that's a great story in Chicago. And the reason I keep my business in the city of Chicago is because I trust it in the city of Chicago. You know, there's a lot of great opportunities, and I think if we can work together, we can grow out more opportunities for the small business. I am very concerned about the small business. So thank you so much.
Hi everyone, my name is Claudette Soto. I'm a 3rd generation Mexican American. My great grandfather came over here from Guanajuato. I grew up in the community of Gage Park. I went to the Illinois Institute of Technology, where I received my undergrad in architecture and my master's in structural engineering. I currently work for Dispoto Inc. as a construction management firm. And I have 6 children, 1 biological son, and I'm adopting 5 from DCFS. And they actually grew up in backyards.
I want you all to know she's getting a statue. In Grand Park. The whole, we came all the pictures of it. You get 6 kids.
Did they get that?
I didn't say what material I was thinking about.
That's okay.
My name is Rodrigo Martinez. I work for project manager for Madison Construction. I've been working as project manager for construction for 8 years. All over the city, did a lot of CBS projects, remodeled Juarez and Pilsen. I actually went to grammar school in Orozco and Pilsen, and I lived in Pilsen for a very long time. And my parents are from Mexico originally. They immigrated here in 1979 and raised us and put us through college. Born and raised, and me and my 4 siblings all live in Chicago, still professionals here in Chicago.
I'm Martin Sandoval, born and raised in Chicago. Actually moved back into the city in 2005. Resident of the 25th Ward, Chelsea. Business owner, I own the CPA practice. Wife, 2 children, son and daughter. Chose to move back into the city. Our family's here. Second, when you find people moving back into the city, one of their hardest choices is always where are our children going to school. There's 3 issues that are near and dear to my family. One is neighborhood development, schools, and as a business owner, really the vibrancy of the small businesses which create employment, which give opportunities for those that are going through the school system, which again provides a solid foundation for the city. 7
Can everybody hear what people are talking about? Just in case. Okay.
Tanya Ferrer, I'm the Associate Director of Minority Outreach and Undocumented Student Liaison for the Illinois Institute of Technology. I also formerly worked at Benito Juarez as a college and career coach through the Office of College and Career Preparation. My mother lives in the district. I was born and raised in Pilsen, continue to live there now, the village of Spaghetti's Fort. With regards to education is a big thing, civic responsibility amongst our residents. So with scholarship opportunities, state institutions not granting aid or limiting aid to undocumented students is an issue that's near and dear to me, along with the educational pipeline, the P320 pipeline for underrepresented minorities within the Latino and African American community. And something that the Pilsen Education Task Force at the University Roundtable, we'd like to mimic that across the city of Chicago to get other communities to further the pipeline of P320 for underrepresented. I got 2 little boys. 2 little boys here. Out of 26 girls in the family, I broke the seal. Boys about 2 and I love Chicago, and so everybody's like, oh, why don't you try another job somewhere else? I'm like, I grew up a Cubs fan. This is my father's doing, because he worked for Cubs, but right across the street. So I'm a White Sox fan by heart now, not only because I work at IT, but how could you not be in the city that we live in? Thank you.
It's for the camera.
Good afternoon, Mayor. My name is Fabian Perez, born and raised in the city of Chicago, product of the CPS system project. I own and run an IT consulting business for small businesses. We provide server and desktop support, user support, help small businesses basically that don't have their own IT departments outsourced enough. I have kids, all went through CPS schools, currently live in the East Village neighborhood, and that's it.
Thank you, and thank you very much for having us, all of us here. I speak for myself now. My name is Cesar Gonzalez. I was born and raised in the Little Village neighborhood. I went to CPS schools. When I was there, I'm currently residing in Garfield Ridge, the 23rd Ward. I work for Northern Trust and have been there for approximately 15 years. My biggest focus and the thing that I want to get most out of this engagement is getting a better perspective of how do we get Latino professionals to come back to the communities that they were raised, that maybe they have left. I think that there's a lot of talent. I think that there is a lot of resources. There are a lot of resources that we can utilize if we pull them together. What is the good way to do that so that the city of Chicago continues to stay vibrant, to continue to be a leader in so many things that we do. So I look forward to the engagement. I have 3 kids. Unfortunately, they are not in CPS currently, but that's what we're here to talk about.
You know, before we begin the engagement, I think the mayor is going to start out with a few words. And
well, let me, first of all, thank you. I know you all have a lot on you got your businesses to run, your families, so to take time off, I want to, from all the other activities you have, I want to say thank you, number 1. Number 2, we have, in the past, I wanted to try something different as I get ready for making the city budget and presenting it. We had a meeting last night with some residents in different communities. We're having this. Next week, I'm going to have about 2 to 3 more of these, what I think are roundtables. And my whole goal here is just to have a discussion about how to keep, really what are the central goals for my administration, and I think reflect in the budget, which is the ability of a business to expand and create jobs or get located here, and a family be able to raise children. I mean, those are your measures. Very simple. As you were saying earlier, and Danny and I just came from this event. You own a jewelry store in Logan Square, yes, but you live on the South Loop. We just came from an announcement for 4 different communities that all touch. South Loop, Chinatown, Bronzeville, and Motor Row. A major investment in our public transportation, 2 new schools, new park, new library, multiple different park investments. I think that all adds to the quality of life and the ability of businesses to grow, families to raise children. And in fact, right where we were, later on this afternoon, Mariano's is starting construction work on a whole new grocery store. And Chicago led the country with people moving back into kind of the downtown area. 36% increase in the last decade. No other city, New York, LA, San Francisco, had the type of growth we had in a 2-mile radius around your downtown business area. So we're going to invest in what I think are the essential public infrastructure to allow small businesses and families to grow. And that is your libraries, your schools, your transportation system, your parks, your streetscape. You do those type of things, businesses will expand, families will locate, and they'll find the opportunity. And we have to keep doing that throughout the city. Now, one of the things last night, there was a lot of discussion about after-school programs, and that was last night. Here, we'll discuss about, we discuss a lot of stuff, but also about small businesses. Now, one thing we've done, and I'm going to be focusing on this, and I wanted to hear different suggestions across a waterfront of issues. But in our last year for businesses, and then I'll just open it, we'll start with questions. We had 119 separate businesses, licenses you had to apply for. And I heard throughout the campaign, we hear it all the time. So we did a study. We had more business licenses than LA, Phoenix, Atlanta, and Philadelphia all combined, Chicago. So we took that 119 down to 47. The next thing we started, which we did recently, is we're reducing our inspections, the other big piece for small businesses. And we've cut the inspections for restaurants, at least, new restaurants, by 50%. Now, we're going to be making some other additional changes because the 2 things I heard about: too many licenses, too many inspections. You take people off of what they're trying to do, away from the business, away from helping a customer, and then they have to focus on a city inspector. So we're going to make those type of changes, but I'm here to basically, as we make some final decisions that will go into this budget and into other things we're doing, I wanted to hear directly from the people that are having their families live here, having their kids grow up, and also equally important, expanding their businesses. And it's going to help us make some big decisions we've got to make. And I think there's a lot more, for me at least, better give and take. I do these type of meetings not just around the budget, but this is a great way to also form some decisions. We got 2 to 3 more, and it's a different change and a different way of having a conversation. And I want to thank the restaurant owners for letting us take a big swath of real estate out of the restaurant today and hold this. So with that, the alderman will lead the discussion.
All right. Do we have any? To start?
Yeah. Mr. Mayor, use the mic, please. Yeah. I want to take a second, Mayor, and thank you again for participating in the Mexican Civic Society Parade.
Yeah.
It's a great success, and I know you have some thoughts on that. I believe we're on the same page in terms of the importance of Main Street jobs creation. Aztec America has a unique model, our business infrastructure group, that is directly driven towards the creation of jobs. Access to credit on Main Street is critical. Community banks, I know you know this, play a critical role in that. One thing I would ask you to do is to use your weight and your prominence as a national player to look into the Basel III capital requirements that are going to, I realize it's a national and international issue, but your weight on this is important because if the community banks don't receive some sort of recognition, if not exemption on that, the credit that is brought to small businesses that is already highly restricted is going to dry up even more. And then the final point I want to make is just ask you to clarify. Can you clarify what your position is right now on the employee head tax going forward?
Well, let me say this. For all those who may not know about Basel III, this really harkens back to some days. But first of all, it deals with how much capital a bank has to hold vis-a-vis its positions on loans. And I am very sensitive to the fact that your bank is not Citi, J.P. Morgan. Your bank is, but though that being said, your bank is crucial to Little Village, Humboldt Park, Pilsen, the city of Chicago, and the businesses that rely on it. So it's important to us, but it's not no disrespect. It's not the entire financial industry is not holding on Aztec Bank.
I understand.
Okay. So that said, I am sensitive to that because community banks are not the same as ones that are kind of essential players. Second is, this goes back to he asked about a per employee head tax. Any company that had 100 or more employees had to pay a tax on those employees. In our last budget, it was $4 per employee. We cut for anybody with 100 or more. So we cut that by $2, and in this budget, we're going to eliminate it. Now, we have been discussing this as a city for years. So we're going to eliminate it, and we're going to eliminate it about a year ahead of schedule. So it will be gone. My view is that will be gone, as I said. Our licenses will be consolidated. So for some of the businesses already licensed, when you renew, they should be consolidated. But for those that are growing and bumping, we're going to eliminate the head tax, so there's no restrictions or a tax on creating jobs. I think that was a nutty. You couldn't say you wanted to create jobs and you had a tax on jobs. So, and it's also a culture. In the sense, a lot of small businesses may not affect here sitting around the table, but the notion that the city had a statement that we tax job creation is just a bad statement. So it's gone. It will be history in my budget.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is, as a small business, I'd like to know what the city can do to help, maybe in grants or assistance for sales and marketing, to try to grow my business.
Give me your business again. Here.
It's IT consulting for small businesses.
Well, look, there's a couple things that a city will do. Let me tell you how I view this. One, we're trying to make sure that our small businesses have access to when we do a request. That is when, the largest purchaser of goods and services in the city is the city itself. And we should be more small business friendly. So we've done some changes with the county. When you want to apply for something, the application for the city and the county are the same. Because I don't want you to try to fill out one form, a different form. You have to hire the same lawyers, same accountants. For the same form asking for the same information, you just got to do it twice. So I want to take that prohibition out. Let me just say something about a recent investment, a recent decision. We're going to ask a lot of big companies about creating high-speed broadband downtown in our neighborhoods. A lot of businesses will be created because of that decision. So the kind of investment decisions we make will help those companies. In today's decision we did in the South, Bronzeville neighborhood, by the fact that we're putting good schools in there, good and fast, good transportation access, I think will entice companies and people to move there. And the companies that get associated, and then they're not represented here, the dry cleaners that come with the residential community, the grocery store that comes with the residential community, the coffee shops that come with the residential community. There's a lot that will happen. Now, could the South Loop, Chinatown, Motor Row all take off without it? Yeah. Did we accelerate that pace? Absolutely. And there's a lot of businesses that will now be able to expand or locate that would not have done otherwise because that area was struggling. Okay?
My question revolves around more on the engagement with the larger companies that you may have referenced. And how do we build a partnership with some of these bigger companies so that they get back into the communities and give back? So for example, I know Northern Trust has certain partnerships with the community, some communities within Chicago, where they help small business owners in organizing, building efficiencies, and those sorts of things. Is there a program that we can collectively work on, the city, large corporations, not just banks, but across the board, to say we, the city, are going to implement a program or run a program, but the companies that are here that have their hub in Chicago give back to the community. So you have the bigger players help out some of the up and coming so that they build off the efficiencies and some of the best practices that they have. That may exist, don't know to what extent, but if it doesn't, is that something that can be accounted for?
Actually, let me, it's a variation on an idea, okay? We just, no company's gonna, look, my view about appealing to a company is appealing to their bottom line. After that, you can, they'll, out of charity, they may do something out of their foundation, but they're not gonna, it's not a lasting business impact. Just recently, we held a conference with the main companies in World Business Chicago and some young, professional, African-American minority-owned businesses. We're going to expand that into the Hispanic-owned businesses. We're going to expand that also into our new startups in the technology space and these big businesses. Because each of the, look, I can't say all the businesses around this table, but some of them can be impacted in the way that they're not going to do it out of charity. It's got to be done out of their self-interest. And I think, though, they do have a sense that if they're going to hire an IT company that does the same services, hiring one locally may be in their own economic interest because it's not somebody flying from another town. And for a lot of small businesses, accessing some of our bigger corporations, they require somebody to kind of, I wouldn't say referee it, I don't know what the word is, but helping in that matchmaking capacity. So we tried something, it worked. I don't know what business deals got out of it, but people who never got a chance to sit with some of the bigger companies actually did. And we're going to expand that into other sectors, high tech, Hispanic community. But let me say one other thing that I think is essential. I look at engineering firms, accounting firms, IT firms, obviously jewelry, bank, construction. We have our smartest person here who also went to IT twice, got a master's also. But here's the thing. We're changing our community colleges into career-based education. We took 6 growth fields: IT, healthcare, convention hospitality, advanced manufacturing, professional services, and the curriculum is all being done by the private sector. So while you're thinking, obviously, business-to-business relationships, I think the most important investment I can make is make sure there's a workforce that knows exactly, trained on the programs and the training manuals that the companies will hire them. And I'll give you one very important thing. We're a transportation distribution logistic center of the country, the city of Chicago, because of our airport, our rail, right? Because of what we're doing at Olive Harvey, we're setting up a transportation distribution logistics school. Aerotron has decided to open up the largest air cargo facility at a gateway airport here in the city of Chicago, because we're going to give them a steady stream of workers. And so while I obviously want to work on business-to-business relationships, getting a trained and educated workforce in the very skills that help us drive our economy is another way of, in my view, helping small businesses, making sure they have the skill set.
With regards to early outreach education, the Latino policy came out with their data. 1 in every 4 Latinos are under the age of 5. So what investment is the city taking to provide resources for early outreach? And at the same time, the outreach with philanthropies, organizations, or big donors that will help contribute to those resources. What pressure is being placed on them to make sure that they're serving disadvantaged communities?
Well, we just did close Fisk and Crawford. And when it comes to, when it comes to children's health, what was it, 10, 15-year battle? Well, okay, so when you say outreach, there's nothing, that was a community meeting. I met with the CEO of Midwest Gen in my office. No, but I also want to say, number two, in addition to that, even in tough times at public schools, the CPS, we created another slot for 6,000 more children to go full-day kindergarten. One of the big complaints by parents was that kindergarten was half-day. We created 6,000 permanent, 2 separate budgets, permanent additional slots for the kindergarten. And I'll have more to say on early childhood because one of the things we're doing as a city, we're creating the first citywide standard for academics for early childhood. No other city has it. So to receive support, you have to achieve you have to meet our educational objectives. And that is a top priority for me because I want people, all families to know, can go on the internet, that facility is a 4-star, that facility is a 3-star, that it can pick the best facilities for their children. And making sure that our communities we're reaching out and putting our resources where people live and where underserved children live. So it's a top priority for me. Very good.
Thank you, Mayor. My question is a realtor with RE/MAX, or in general for all realtors. I do residential and commercial. The dilemma that we're confronting right now, selling commercial, it's not the price because they're low, it's the taxes. People don't look too much at the price of the how much they're selling, but the taxes that they have to pay per year is very high. I have many that just cannot deal with it. They say what they're trying to earn, and they're paying more than half of that in property taxes. Do you see any kind of progress in helping the small business person with the high taxes on the properties?
Well, one is, as you know, last year our budget did not increase property taxes, and I will say that again for this year. It will not increase property taxes. We're holding the line on taxes on that aspect. Both budgets, last year and this year, no increase in property taxes. No increases. No increases in sales tax. No, and then right. I appreciate that. Right down the table, they'll say, what are we going to do for all the other services? So I'm holding look, in tough budget times, I appreciate what families are going through. So to make all those decisions, holding the line 2 years in a row, no increase in property taxes, no increase in sales tax, no increase in the fuel tax, we're eliminating the per employee head tax, and yet we're expanding services into early childhood. We're expanding services into making sure that our neighborhoods have the type of amenities we just talked about in certain communities. Now, I appreciate the commercial side and the residential side, and I appreciate what people feel like on the tax side. So we always have a balancing act. We're holding the line on taxes, making fundamental reforms to how we deliver services so we can continue to deliver services at a much lower cost, and that's our priority. And I will say, and I'll last here, I don't know if you saw this recent data point, but Chicago, home values increased by 1.6% nationally. Chicago's home values increased by 2.8%. By over more than a point, we outpaced the country. Why? Because of the decisions I think we're making. Investing in our schools. What's that?
I see it.
Yeah, I think Ben Bernanke helped also. But here's you're in residential real estate and commercial. But Chicago's residential market is outpacing the national. Why? Because we're making certain decisions, all the decisions we're making, to invest in our city, invest in our parks, our schools, our libraries, our mass transit system, and most importantly, like through our community colleges and CPS, in our workers. And that's what attracts families to buy homes. It's what attracts businesses to locate or decide to expand. And I'm very sensitive to the tax issue. That's why 2 years in a row we not only will not raise taxes, we will eliminate the per employee head tax.
Okay, another quick question in the same issue. In the same, let's say, 2 blocks radius, in the same block, same dimension, same square footage, commercial, what are they based on when some of them are paying like half of what others that recently in the last 5-7 years have purchased, but the old.
You mean from the assessor's office?
Yes, I've seen some, for example, on Pulaski, and if you look down at the same block, some are like the new purchasers are paying like twice as much. Twice as much?
I got it. It's for them. I don't really care.
Oh.
I can hear it otherwise.
Yeah, it's twice as much.
I will look at.
Same square footage.
That's out of the assessor's office, not mine. But we'll take a look at. You may even have a bigger sense of that, Danny. But every property, depending on what their business is, what goes on, when it was built. I don't know. I mean, from the bank side, you guys also deal with that a lot.
Yeah, we see it a lot. I chaired the State Property Tax Appeals Board for 8 years, and I can just tell any property owner the appeal process, whether it's through the assessor's office or the PTAB, is critical. But obviously, sometimes when new people are coming in and buying, they're buying at a lower cost basis, so that has an effect. But the city doesn't set those.
We don't set
those rates.
So, we don't. No. But let me say one thing, and again, I want to repeat. We're going to hold the line on taxes, and in fact, we're going to eliminate one that was a disincentive. A lot of companies I know were like Ford Motor when we got the third shift. One of the issues, not the issue, was in fact the per employee head tax. So we created 1,200 jobs, giving them certainty on that. Let me say one other thing. We're talking about small and big businesses, right? Just taking where some of the families live in Danny's district in Chinatown, where we're best. And not just families, but also businesses. Access to good public transportation, is it important? Yes. Okay. Access to good parks and places for families when you're selling a home, that's important. Access to good schools, okay. The ability of a company to find workers to easily get to and from their home to where they work, is that important? Yeah, okay. So we're holding the line in taxes, and we're expanding every one of the investments that are also key for whether a family locates in a neighborhood or a business locates there. And taxes are one issue. Licenses, inspections are another issue. And access to all the other things that help either a family or a business locate are the investments we can make. And I will say this. Danny's been working on the Chinatown Library 3-4 years. We're finally getting it out of a storefront. We're going to build a new facility. We're going to make investments in that right down the block of a new gifted school not far from them. And I will guarantee you, for the residents and the businesses in that neighborhood, huge investment that only we can make. So, okay.
So we talked about education, and
this must be a good statement. You're standing up.
We've talked about education, and I'll be up front. My children are not in CPS. The local options are not what they need to be. But I'm not going to touch on education. I'm going to touch on safety, because that's another key issue citywide. Some might say that in our fair state that it's tax and spend. Small business owners as a whole live in reality of having to make ends meet, generate a profit. So you pick and choose, make investments. I would challenge that the government should also take that same view. With respect to safety, what additional investment or reallocation of resources would be applied to ensure that within the neighborhoods that safety is a priority?
First of all, let me go back to your overall statement. One of the reasons we're doing this is actually to hear, and you know, this exchange. Right. You want to do that?
Yeah. Let me make that. I think the mayor has explained that, you know, he's going to hold the line on taxes. He's cutting bureaucracies. He is making it easier to do inspections, for example, so there isn't as many inspections on businesses, small businesses in particular. But we're also looking for your ideas, you know, the ideas that you may have. I mean, the mayor's opened up a website where he's looking for citizens to come in, give ideas. He has basically an open door policy to aldermen in terms of coming in if we've got some ideas, because it's a tough situation, a tough economy. So one of the things that we were hoping to get from you is your ideas in terms of what the mayor might entertain in terms of looking at this year's budget or in the future that might save the city some money and also make the city more easier to work with.
Let me give you 2 examples, if I can, to illustrate what Danny said, and then I'll go right to the public safety. We have 7 community healthcare clinics throughout the city. We did a study in Englewood and in Uptown. We found we can deliver better health care and save the taxpayers $10 million. So we've now done all 7. Community health care clinics, some of them are open on Saturday, some of them extended their hours, they provide better, different type of care, and we saved $10 million. I just recently announced Catholic Charities is going to do some things at Department of Children and Family Services. And those savings, we're now going to expand our services to homeless youth and adolescents. Okay, so I am interested in you said government does something like private sector. Government is a little different than private sector. That said, you got to make choices. You got to make choices. And if you had different ideas of how to, you know, provide a service, but do it differently and better, we've done it, simple one, garbage collection. We used to collect garbage on a political map. So we were doing all these turns. We weren't doing it like FedEx and UPS. We've done a whole grid system. We're going to save $15 to $20 million just getting rid of the political map as a way to collect garbage. We have made some changes. Okay, I'll show you another one. About, of the 1,000 officers we've moved on to the streets, 600 of them last year, we moved out of the back office where they were literally filing paper, and yet they're police officers. They were trained to police a neighborhood. They were literally doing filings and paperwork, administrative. So we moved them onto the communities. Now, overall in the city, crimes dropped somewhere between 9%, 10% in the communities. Other communities are seeing a gang violence, and we have to apply our resources to that particular area. Public safety goes along with all the other public investments we're making. And we are looking at some other ideas in the budget of how to make sure that we have the police on our street, our kids off the street, and our guns are off the street as well. And doing certain things that exactly, because you can make all the other investments that we're making in the South Loop, that Jose, where his family lives, the Torreses. On the other hand, we got to make sure there's a public safety component that goes with it. And that's going to make sure for all your employees that come in and out of your businesses or your neighborhood. But I'm always open to what I want. You know, this is very, very helpful because of the choices we're making. But I want, if you had ideas on a specific element of the budget, here's a new idea, a way to use technology, help small businesses interact. That's a good thing that we're working on actually. But those are the type of things that if you had ideas, if you don't, that's okay. We can just have this discussion. But ideas that are ways to change things. You've interacted with government. Could be on the licenses, could be on inspections, could be on garbage collection. Anything that helps us.
Yeah, Mayor.
Help you.
Thank you for the opportunity again. One of the things, back in 2008, we had 2 locations. We had one in Lakeview, and now we're in Logan Square. Yeah,
jewelry store.
Correct, jewelry stores. One of the main concerns that we had back then, and still is the parking meters. Big issue is because where I'm located, it's about a block and a half long, and the box that we have to pay for the parking is literally in the middle of the block. So I've seen situations where customers of mine, because I have cameras that can look outside, go park in front of the store, walk a half a block or a block to get the parking ticket, walk back, and they're writing up a ticket. And they try to fight off the ticket, but the ticket's already done. So what happens with the business owner, for myself, is I lose a customer. I get an angry customer that does not come back because of that situation. That being said, I've been to Denver, I've been to Cambridge, Boston. Same company that does the meters here in Chicago have different meters out there where they have where they have a space and they carry for 2 meters, and you actually put the credit card and it shows the time on there. So I don't know why they can have that done in other cities.
Mr.
And here in the city,
I'm going to tell you something.
in the city of Chicago, we cannot have that kind of meters where it could be more convenient for business owners. I mean, this problem is never been really talked about, but it is a big problem.
Well, it's not. I'm only saying that nothing has. There's a lot that frustrates me when I got into this office on certain things that, like we just said, like on garbage collection. Why it took us 20 years to get to a point to save money, just change the way we do it. We let politics get in the way. The parking meter deal, as you know, I'm in a big battle with that company right now. They are the worst corporate citizen, in my view. Now look, what was decided was decided.
It's done.
Okay, but you bring up Cambridge, and I want you to know I brought this example. We brought the city to the company. In Miami, you can pay by cell phone, and you get notified by cell phone.
Sure.
So like, let's say you bought something like you got a half hour, or an hour. 10 minutes before that hour was up, the phone gets rung, and you can actually then go pay by cell. The deal is a deal, and I hate that deal, but it's done.
It's done. There's nothing.
But they have not done what they need to do as a corporate citizen, in the sense of making what the parking spots more convenient and more customer friendly, from technology, spacing, and we have brought this to them, and as part of our discussions with them, is I have not given up on the fact. Now we have other challenges with them, as you know. They've sent a bill as it relates to things that I believe is totally out of line, and I'm refusing to pay it. So we have a real clear understanding of issues. On that issue, I have brought, since this is dating now a year, trying to get them to change their actual parking meters to be more customer friendly, like they have. I don't know if they have the Miami one. Miami one has a pay by cell. Cambridge has multiple, with 1 meter for 2 cars. So you don't walk. Luckily, we didn't have a bad winter this year, or other people be climbing over. So I am very sensitive to this issue.
Yeah, and as a business owner, what can we do to maybe get somebody to? Who do we communicate these issues, or just directly to them, or?
I think there's a company. You should let them know your views.
Right.
Okay.
Very
But
good.
know that the city is advocating also on your behalf, but don't assume that we're alone.
Exactly.
Okay.
Thank you.
We've got time for one more question. Carlos?
Let's somebody else.
Okay.
Mayor, thank you so much for being here today. It's not easy to speak in public, so sorry. It's not easy to speak in public, so. Well,
Try it. You'll get used to it after a while.
I try to do the best I can. So, when I start looking, the city of Chicago, especially in the Spanish and the Afro-American areas, it's a lot of foreclosures. It's a lot of empty houses, and I think the city of Chicago need to start working to make a new ordinance, to create opportunities with this disadvantage right now, because we need to take advantage of the foreclosure. So I think if the city of Chicago and the aldermen can work, make a new ordinance, or maybe can start working friendly with the banks. Maybe the banks can start giving some money, and maybe the city can provide some money to start creating a new opportunities for companies in construction, but not only construction, related to construction. Like if we start working in these foreclosure houses and start rigging these houses, working with the banks, working with the city, create a program. I don't know what's the idea. I don't know how we can create a program to take advantage of this disadvantage. I think you get a lot of opportunities for jobs. A lot of construction companies, a lot of architects, a lot of lawyers, a lot of suppliers can be part plan, this program, because you go everywhere, you see empty houses, and when you start talking about foreclosure, no, it's only problem when the people who lose the house. It's coming, like gang members, like crime, etc., etc. And you see a nice neighborhood areas. It's a lot of empty houses.
Oscar, this is not to recite what we did, although we've taken certain steps to this. Like one of them was, and it was landmark, forcing the banks when the property's in foreclosure, it's like nobody really owns it. And when that property on the block forecloses, it affects the value of every other home on that block. And we got to stop that cancer, for lack of a better word, from spreading down the street. So one of the things we did is make sure that banks knew that when that property was in foreclosure, that's their property. They got to cut the grass. They got to, they can't just let it get boarded up and become, whether it's a crime problem, but most importantly, a drain on the value of every other family's home. Second thing is, we're exploring, and this is helpful to me because we have some other ideas on how to take what was usually owned property, make it a rental, and targeting certain communities to do that. One thing that I think I've been most interested also is, from the construction side of the jobs, is residential energy conversion. That to me is a huge opportunity for the city because we have an older housing stock to get both the former construction workers that were building new homes to rehabilitating homes from an energy perspective. It will put our engineers and architects to work. It'll help the banks on the lending side. And it'll help other communities. And that to me is where we can actually solve a lot of problems with one type of investment. But this is, sometimes I don't think Washington, and I will say this having come from President Obama's side, fully appreciate the texture in the sense of when that foreclosure, like a swath through neighborhoods, just cut through and left neighborhoods, just desolated. 2, 3, 4 homes on a block foreclosed or sale sign, grass growing, doors boarded up, windows boarded up, and what it does to a neighborhood, and it just takes the vitality right out of it. And the good news is, as you just said, you can feel certain parts of the residential home values are going up, sales are increasing. On the other hand, the economic and human, I don't know another word, devastation of the last 6 years has been incredible to communities throughout the city. And so at one level, we can talk like you're in the South Loop, Chinatown, Motor Row, you can see the growth. Other communities, the boarded up has had a tremendous impact on their ability to attract the families and the businesses they want. And we are focused on that. I will say this, it is very difficult to kind of, in the face of a huge headwind, the city of Chicago by itself but in the targeted areas we're doing it, and I'm not satisfied until we really turn these homes from boarded up to residential properties again. Okay?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Let's follow up. Okay. It's in the construction business exists, for the small business. Yeah. The city of Chicago has a program is called MBE business.
Yeah.
And DBE business. Yeah. And I would like to ask this opinion is to say, it's probably, to give some incentive, to the big companies like, for mentioned, like Walsh or the McHughes or something like this, to those companies who hire, MBE or DBE companies, and also an extra credit if those people has a resident workers, can give it some incentive or give it something a little more, an incentive to these companies, giving more opportunities for MBEs and DBEs.
Yeah, I don't know. Let me say this for obviously a lot of Hispanic-owned businesses. We just started this year one new program that we started a number of initiatives, but this program I'm very happy about. It used to be when you applied, let's say we're building a school or we're building a library, X percentage of the work went to minority or women-owned businesses. This year, to expand that goal, we said in your non-public sector, whatever you're doing on your non-schools, non-parks, non-library work, non-mass transit work, if you hire in the minority-owned businesses, in the subcontractor, legal work, IT work. When you do apply for public work, the libraries, the schools, we'll give you credit for what you did in the private sector. So it goes to your point value, because we want what we want as a city, not just for what we're spending our money on. We want you to have that as a philosophy, and to incentivize you, we will give you credit. So next time, if they hire your IT company on something totally unrelated to the city, when that big company applies to do the wiring at a school, I'm just using that as an example, they get credit for hiring his company on some totally separate contract. It's worth X points. They hire Mr. Sandoval's CPA firm on something totally unrelated. When they apply for public work, having hired Mr. Sandoval on something else counts. Okay, and that to me, and we could go through all of it except for you. Jewelry does not count.
It's okay.
I apologize for that. But we do all that. That would actually have an investigation at the end. But we do all that so our values go beyond our budget. Okay? But that's something very sensitive to.
I've been learning that time. Can you do some closing remarks? Or?
Look, here's what I would say. For whatever reason, you may not have thought of an idea coming in here. If there's another idea, you can always get it to Danny. You get it to my office. But look, all of us are, to quote Mr. Sandoval, you all think about things in your business, say, oh, I could do this a little different and get a better bang for my buck. There is no part of this city budget that's immune from change or reform. Everything's got to be looked at. And that's our approach. And so if you didn't come up with an idea today, I'm open to it. Now, one, we're going to hold the line on major taxes that affect our families and businesses. We're going to continue to invest in things that I think are important, our children. But the budget is a series of choices, and you can't do it all. So what is the most productive, important investment you can make? What are the things that need to change? Why haven't we changed them? And I asked every one of my all of my commissioners, what is your mission? What are you doing? If it doesn't fit in it, why should you do it? And if you are doing it and you've agreed you should do it, is it the best way to do it? And I returned to this example at Department of Children and Family Services. They decided Catholic Charities was a better person to deliver services. We're going to take $2 million in savings and put it into homeless adults. Those are the right type of examples, small, but we're going to make a difference in a lot of kids' lives that way. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.